how do you hook your audience? Like, that's one of the biggest things. If you haven't got your audience hooked, so much time could be wasted. So honestly, curiosity is the biggest thing. If a student is curious, he wants to know more. And right from there on, the more he wants to know, the more he takes in. So everybody likes to be in the up and coming and the new. And if you can get their attention, get their curiosity, so much more is retained in the adult minds. We come to a world that the younger generation wants everything today. That 6 months is an unrealistic expectation in their world, that everything takes time. I am noticing that, but on the flip side of it, the younger generation seems to be so receptive to the new information. So yeah, they want everything really quick, but they truly like seeing new podcasts. So versus the 25-year journeyman, again, change is hard for any adult. So the younger generation is accepting change way better than the old one is. So this was, this is a once in a career project that I was really proud to be part of. I wasn't there start to finish, but I did get a good chunk of it. And it was something, I don't know, honestly, if there's anything else comparable out there that I've heard of anywhere else in North America, possibly in Europe. But it's up in northwestern British Columbia. An aluminum manufacturing plant has their own generation approximately 50 miles from the aluminum smelter. So they have 2 circuits of 287 kV that come up a valley, up over top of a glacier, probably some of the most rugged country you could ever possibly see, and down into another valley that makes its way along to the smelter. So this was all built in the early 50s. And I think the history, I'm still not there, but they built all this wonderful double circuit 287, energized it, and 8 months later, the first avalanche came down the mountain and wiped out 8 towers. This was the solution they came up with 60 years ago. Maybe it's time to try it again. So that's what it ended up being. It was a multi-year project to essentially install. There was 28 steel cables that get banded together, but essentially strung from mountaintop to mountaintop. Elevated platforms, helipads built on these steel cables, and then the conductor itself was raised up about 500 feet, suspended from these steel cables. So any other future avalanches will blow right underneath and leave it there. So now I believe there's about a little over a 2-mile stretch where there are no structures, that this massive cable, it's just about the size of a beer can, that's suspended off these 2 catenary structures for I think it's over 10,000 feet before it hits another structure on the ground.
Do you remember the size of the conductor? Because it was special made conductor, right? For that
the
one?
Conductor is EMU conductor, a giant ACSR conductor, 3.5 million MCM, I believe.
It's like the size of a Coke can or something, right?
Essentially, pretty much, yeah, it's almost the size. I think it was 2.5 inches in diameter or something like that point. It was huge wire.
Wow.
It was originally pressed there with an ACSR, but it came to the world, it was all implosive sleeves, 2-part implosive sleeves. You have to blow the steel core, which was probably a 1-inch diameter steel core, and then put another implo over top to seal I can't remember, it was probably 3 or 4 layers of aluminum stranding.
When that helicopter came into Canada, it stopped for fuel at YVR, which is the Vancouver International Airport. It stopped at YVR for fuel, and at that time, it was apparently the largest helicopter they had ever seen that had ever landed at YVR. And I think it was the first time that helicopters were actually used for construction purposes in Canada as well.
So again, helicopters were brand new. It was a brand new invention. It was the Chat GPT of 1949.
There's these photos of these guys just shirtless, up on these aluminum structures, like A-frames, like you said, sawhorse A-frame style, standing on the top with these pole gins, raising the bridge up, like in the Alpine. They're all black and white photos. Like, it's super cool to see just how people made this happen back then. I don't know, super interesting to me. I've seen a few of the photos and videos of building that more recent catenary, and seeing that Chinook, I believe it was, flying that snowcat in, or snowcat or bulldozer or whatever it was, flying that thing in pieces so that you guys could put it together and clear the side of the mountain for the anchor points.
We did fly a snowcat in and a smaller excavator and essentially like a D8 cat that was up there and is never leaving. We used it while it was there, and I don't know if it's been started again since.
That's wild. You talk about replacing the insulators. Do you have a number on how many insulators were replaced on that line?
Oh, I don't know. Like say, it was essentially the better part of 15 miles. So I couldn't, probably pushing 80 to 100,000 pieces of glass were replaced up there. All the dead end structures were triple string. The real heavy ones were 6-string dead ends. So yeah, there was thousands upon thousands of insulators changed up there. So many of them was dead end to dead end to dead end. So
I believe it was the first in time long line was used for rope access or access to working environment outside of the rescue industry. I believe like a rope under a helicopter, this was the first time it was used in construction or out in the work environment. Is that correct? And if so, like what was developing that like?
It took a couple of years, right from the type of helicopter that was permitted to do this work to the harness that would be allowed for the worker to wear. It's all very tightly specified by Transport Canada on what you can and can't do. So it was probably a 1.5-year process to essentially get a pilot project that Transport Canada blessed and see how it came there, to give it a trial that the rules for life or limb rescue or police work or fire suppression are different than day-to-day work in Canada, and it's way more stringent to use it as a work method as it is for a life or limb rescue. So I came up with a program that satisfied Transport Canada's requirements in order to use it as a work method.
It's interesting too, because like when you talk about using this method for search and rescue or something like that, it's usually just like a once in and once out, or a couple times in and out if you got a couple people stranded on a cliffside or something like that, and you're trying to rescue them, versus performing hundreds of rotations a day of line workers, getting them on and off, on and off the power line. Not just on and off the power line, but in most cases we're going on and off an energized power line, an energized 500 kV power line. So there's that component and that aspect of it too. So I don't know, super cool project, I think.
Yeah, it's not likely that something's going to happen, but if it were to happen, it's not a bent fender. It's not something wrong. It's usually multiple fatalities. So that is the level of risk that's got to be understood. And honestly, in the utility environment, I'm not so sure most linemen truly understand the risks that are involved with using helicopters. That I don't know what the best way to put it is, that I have no fear of using a helicopter today, but if I could walk across a field and climb a structure versus long lining into that structure day in, day out, there's no way, because it's not likely it's going to happen, but it's the same thing of walking in front of a loaded gun. If nobody's finger is on that trigger, you're not going to get shot. But why would you ever walk in front of the gun if you didn't have to, when you could walk behind it? Like, there's thousands of horsepower in these birds going around, and 1,000 different parts all balancing things out perfectly. And all it takes is one missed step or one bearing to let go in that 4,000 horsepower machine for it to essentially explode right in front of you. And I'm not sure that most guys truly understand that. The best thing that you can equip a worker with is an understanding and information. Don't take anything as gospel. Understand it. That's I keep circling back. That's part of this adult education. The level of comprehension of your adult students. Are they just doing this because they've been told to do it and they're following the rules, or do they understand the process of why they're doing it? Again, nobody will walk in front of a loaded gun if they realize it's loaded, pointed at them. So education is the biggest part of a safe work environment. Honestly, I'm really challenging the students, the apprentices that I'm meeting now. Just because I say something, don't take it as gospel. I've now learned 25 plus years in the trade. I had always just accepted, you do this because that instructor 20 years ago or that lineman told me to do it that way, and what it is. But did you understand what you were doing and why you're doing it? So one of the first things I tell the students, the new apprentices, and we're coming in for a class, like, I want you to truly understand. If you don't understand, there's not a bad question out there. If you don't think I'm saying right, or you're just taking it as gospel and don't understand, challenge me on it. I want you to have the understanding behind what's going on, and because you're going to have to make a decision one day, and the only way you're going to make that decision is to understand what's going on, not because Rule 427 says I've got to do this. Try to solve them, or not ask for the answer, ask for information. Honestly, that's the biggest thing right now. That Siri, how do I solve this? That they want the answer, and it's not the answer they need, it's the information they need to process it themselves. That, again, Google's here to stay, Chat GPT's here to stay. Everybody's going that, well, they won't have to do anything anymore. They're worried about every time you got an assignment, you're just going to go to Chat GPT and they're going to spit it out and here's your assignment. Yeah, you know what? That's the way the world's going, but we've got to learn how to use these tools and not just turn into robots and drones. We got to use these tools for information, not for answers, and come up with our own conclusions from it.
All right, if you're liking this content lately, please make sure you like, subscribe, follow, do all those things. It really helps the algorithm, helps get this pushed out to more people, and I appreciate it. Peace.